Nestor, drinking wine with Machaon, could not help but hear the screaming and said,
Son of Asclepius, what do you make of this? Our boys are shouting much louder by the ships. Now don't get up. Just keep sipping that wine until pretty Hecamedia heats up a warm bath and washes off all that clotted blood. Myself, I'll go to a lookout point.
With that, he picked up a metal-plated shield, one of Thrasmides, that was lying in the hut, and a heavy spear with a honed bronze point. He stepped outside and saw an ugly scene, the Greeks en route, and behind them the high-hearted Trojans pouring through the wall. As the dark sea broods with a silent swell, and only a faint premonition of wind is traced on its surface, and no crest forms, till a decisive breeze comes down from Zeus. So the old man pondered which way to go, to join the Greek troops or to get Agamemnon, the son of Atreus, shepherd of his people. He thought it over and went for Agamemnon. The wounded kings were coming up from their ships, Diomedes, Odysseus, and Agamemnon, and met Nestor on the way. Their ships were drawn up far from the battle, on the sand by the grey sea. The first row, and the wall was built near the last row, inland. The beach was wide, but could not hold all the ships, so they were drawn up in rows toward the plain, and filled with the space between the two headlands. So the kings were coming up together, leaning on their spears, to see the fighting, and their hearts were grieved. Old Nestor met them, and was hailed by Agamemnon.
Nestor, son of Neleus, glory of our army, why have you left the battle and come here? I fear that Hector will make good on the threats he leveled against us in the Trojan muster, that he would not return to Ilion until he had burnt our ships and killed our men. It's all coming true, just as he said, and the worst part is that all the Greeks are angry with me, just like Achilles, and none of them is willing to defend our ships.
And Nestor, the Gerenian horseman, answered,
Yes, this is how things are, and Zeus himself, the Thunder Lord, could not make them otherwise. For the wall is down, we put our trust in it as a bulwark for our ships, and now the enemy is at our ships, fighting relentlessly. You cannot even tell in which direction our men are retreating, so confused. It's a slaughter. They are so filled with the noise of battle up to the sky. We must take counsel in this situation. Next, enter the battle ourselves. It is not possible for wounded men to fight.
And Agamemnon, the warlord.
Well then, Nestor, the ships are under attack, and neither the wall nor the trench, which we trusted to be a bulwark for our beachhead camp, has been of any avail. It must be the pleasure of Zeus Almighty for us to die here, nameless and far from Argos. I knew it when he was favoring the Greeks, and I knew now that he is giving the Trojans glory from above and has tied our hands. So this is what I say we should all do now. Let's haul the first line of ships to the water, get them afloat, and moor them with anchors, until darkness. If and when the Trojans stop for the night, we can drag down the rest. It is no shame to flee ruin, even by night. Better to give evil the slip than be caught by it.
Odysseus, looking him up and down, said, What kind of thing is that to say? You're a ruined man, son of Atreus, fit to command some ragtag army, but not rule over men like us, to whom Zeus has granted just one thing in life, to wind up wars like skeins of wool, from youth to old age, until the last of us dies. Do you really want to leave Troy behind, the great city that we've suffered so much for? Stop that talk before somebody hears you. Words like that should never make it past your mouth. You're a separate king commanding the loyalty of an army of Greeks. You must have lost your mind, ordering us to launch ships while battle is raging. The Trojans, who are winning as it is, will have all their prayers answered, and our army will be utterly crushed. Draw their ships to the sea, and the Greeks will be looking over their shoulders and give up the fight. Your plan will ruin us, Lord Agamemnon. To which Agamemnon briefly replied,
That cuts steep, Odysseus. I'm not suggesting that the ships be launched against the Achaeans' will. I wish there were someone, young or old, with a better plan than mine. I would welcome that.
Diomedes, the bull roarer, had a response.
The man is here. No need for a long search. If you are willing to listen, and if none of you will be upset because I'm the youngest in years, there's nothing wrong with my lineage. My father was Tydeus, who lies buried at Thebes. My great-grandfather, Portheus, who had 3 peerless sons who lived in Plerion and steep Calydon, Agrios, Meles, and the horseman Oeneus. My father's father, the bravest of the 3, my father left home and wandered to Argos. As Zeus and the other gods no doubt willed, he married one of Adrastus' daughters, and lived in a rich house with many acres, and wheat and orchards, and many sheep, and he was the best spearman in all Argos. You will have heard of all this now, it is true. So don't think I'm a coward by birth and reject anything worthwhile. I might have to say we must go down to the battle, injuries and all, not to fight. We will stay out of range to avoid taking wounds on top of wounds, and to spur the others on and send them in. Those who have been brave have been on the sidelines, missing their resentment and failing to fight.
They heard him out and agreed. Agamemnon led the way as they started out. Poseidon was not blind to any of this, but went with them disguised as an old man. He took Agamemnon by his right hand and spoke to him words that winged home. Well, son of Atreus, Achilles' dark heart must be laughing now, as he sees the panic and slaughter of the Greeks. The man hasn't a shred of sense left. None. Damn him! May some god cripple him, but the blessed ones aren't angry with you. Not yet. There's still a chance you will see the Trojan generals raise dust on the wide plain, as they beat a retreat from your ships and huts. And as he sped over the plain, Poseidon yelled so loud it seemed that 10,000 warriors had been enlisted by Ares, and shouted at once, and the god's yell put into each Greek's heart the strength to fight and battle on without pause.
Standing on a crag of Olympus, gold-throned Hera saw her brother, who was her husband's brother too, busy on the fields of human glory, and her heart sang. Then she saw Zeus, sitting on the topmost peak of Ida, and was filled with resentment. Cow-eyed Hera mused for a while on how to trick the mind of Zeus Aegis-holder in the plan that seems best to her, who was to make herself up and go to Ida, seduce him, and then shed on his eyelids, and cunning in mind a sleep gentle and warm. She went to the bedroom her darling son Hephaestus had built for her, and closed behind her the solid polished doors he had fitted out with a secret latch, and that no other god could open. First she cleansed her lovely skin with ambrosia that rubbed on scented oil, so immortally perfumed that if the jar were just shaken in Zeus's bronze-floored house, the fragrance would spread on to heaven and earth. She rubbed this into her beautiful skin, and she combed her hair and plaited the lustrous ambrosial locks that fell gorgeously from her immortal head. Then she put on a robe that Athena had embroidered for her, pinning it at her breast with brooches of gold. A sash with 100 tassels circled her waist and her pierced ears. She put earrings with 3 mulberry drops, beguilingly bright, and the shining goddess veiled over everything with a beautiful veil that was as white as the sun, and bound lovely sandals on her oiled, supple feet. And when everything was perfect, she stepped out of the room and called Aphrodite, and had a word with her in private.
My dear child, will you do something for me? I wonder, or will you refuse, angry because I favor the Greeks and you the Trojans?
And Zeus's daughter, Aphrodite, replied,
Goddess revered as Cronus' daughter, speak your mind, tell me what you want, and I'll oblige you if I possibly can.
And Hera, with every intention to deceive,
Give me now the sex and desire you use to subdue immortals and humans. I am off to visit the ends of the earth, and Father Ocean and Mother Tytheus, who muttered and doted on me in their house when they got me from Rhea, after Zeus had exiled Cronus to the regions below. I'm going to see them and try to resolve their endless quarrel. For eons now they've been angry and haven't made love. If I can talk to them and have them make up and get them together in bed again, they will worship the ground I walk on.
And Aphrodite, who loved to smile,
How could I, or would I, refuse someone who sleeps in the arms of Almighty Zeus?
And with that she unbound from her breast an ornate stash inlaid with magical charms. Sex is in it, and desire, and seductive sweet talk that fools even the wise. She handed it to Hera and said,
Hera, put this sash in your bosom. It has everything built in. I predict you will accomplish what your heart desires.
She spoke, and ox-eyed Hera, smiling, tucked the sash in her bosom. Then Zeus's daughter Aphrodite went home, but Hera streaked down from Olympus's peaks, using Perea and Amalthea as stepping stones, and sped over the snow-capped mountains of Thrace. Her feet never touched earth, and so came to Lemos, Theos' city, where she met Sleep, the brother of Death. She took Sleep's hand and said to
Sleep, Lord of all mortal and immortal. If you ever listened to me before, listen now, and I will be grateful forever. Lull Zeus's bright eyes to sleep for me, and as soon as I lie beside him in love, I will give you gifts, a handsome throne of imperishable gold that Hephaestus, my strong-armed son, will build you. It comes with a stool to rest your feet on, as you sit at banquet and sip your wine.
Sweet Sleep answered her, Goddess, revered as Cronos' daughter, if this were any other of the gods eternal, I'd lull him to sleep without any trouble, even if it were the river Ocean, which was the origin of them all, but not Zeus. I wouldn't go near the son of Cronos, much less lull him to sleep, unless he himself asked me. I learned my lesson from your last request. That day, Hercules, Zeus's high-hearted son, sailed from Troy, having wasted the city. Yes, I slipped my sweet self around the mind of Zeus Aegis-holder, while you brewed up storms at sea to drive his son Hercules off course to Cos, far from his friends. And when Zeus woke up, he was angry, throwing all gods all over the house and looking, for me especially. He would have pinched me from aether to sea, no more to be seen, if night, the mistress, had not saved me. I ran to her, and he relented, reluctant to do anything to offer swift night. And now this, another impossible mission. Hera, the ox-eyed lady, said to him,
Sleep, what are you worried about? Do you think that Zeus will help the Trojans and be as angry now as he was then? Look for Hercules, his own son. Come on. Look, I'll give you one of the young graces to have hold and be called your wife, Pythias, the object of all your desire.
Sleep's mood brightened at this. He said, Swear by the inviolable water of Styx, one hand on fertile earth and the other on glistering sea, so that all gods below with Cronos will be witnesses. That will give me one of the graces, Hestia, the object of all my desire. The white-armed goddess, Hera, agreed, and swore the oath, naming all the gods in Tartarus below. Titans they are called. When she had sworn and finished the oath, the two of them left Lemnos and Imbros, and came like swirling fog to Ida, a mountain of wilderness dotted with springs. They left the sea at Lection and headed inland. The treetops quivered under their feet. Sleep halted before Zeus, could see him, perching in the highest fir tree on Ida, that rose through the mists to pure bright air. Sleep nestled in its long needled branches, and looked just like the shrill mountain owl. Gods called Chalcus and men Siamidus. Hera was fast approaching Gargaeus, Ida's highest peak, when Zeus saw her, and when he saw her, lust enveloped him. Just had it the first time they made love. Slipping off to bed behind their parents' backs, he stood close to her and said, Hera, why have you left Olympus? And where are your horses and chariot? And Hera, with every intention to deceive,
I'm off to visit the ends of the earth, and Father Ocean and Mother Tithys, who nursed and doted on me in their house. I'm going to see them and try to solve their endless quarrel. For eons now, they've been angry and haven't made love. My horses stand at the foot of Ida, ready to bear me over land and sea. I came here from Olympus for your sake, so you wouldn't be upset that I left you, to visit Ocean without a word to you.
And Zeus, clouds scolding about him, You can go there later, just as well. Let's get in bed now and make love. No goddess or woman has ever made me feel so overwhelmed with lust, not even when I fell for Ixion's wife, who bore Perithous, wise as a god, or Danae, with lovely slim ankles, who bore Perseus, a paragon of men, or the daughter of far-famed Phoenix, who bore Minos and godlike Radamith, or Semele, or Alcmaean Thebes, who bore Hercules, a stout-hearted son, and Semele bore Dionysius, a joy to humans, or Demeter, the fair-haired queen, or glorious Leto, or even you. I've never loved anyone as I loved you now, never been in the grip of desire so sweet. And Hera, with every intention to deceive,
What a thing to say, my awesome lord! The thought of us lying down here on Ida and making love outdoors in broad daylight. What if one of the immortals saw us asleep and went to all the other gods and told them? I could never get up and go back home. It would be shameful, but if you really do want to do this, there is the bedroom your dear son Hephaestus built for you, with good solid doors. Let's go there and lie down, since you're in the mood."
And Zeus, who masses the clouds, replied, "Hera, don't worry about any god or man. Seeing us, I'll enfold you in clouds so dense and golden, not even Helios could spy on us. And his light is the sharpest vision there is." With that, he caught his wife in his arms. Beneath them, the shining soil sprouted, fresh grass, and dewy lotus, and crocus, and hykid, soft and thick, that kept them up off the ground. And as they lay there, a beautiful golden cloud enfolded them, and precipitated drops of glimmering dew. And so the father slept soundly on Gargon's peak, mastered by sleep and love, and held his wife close, but sweet sleep ran down to the Achaean ship. With a message for Poseidon, the earth shaker, he stood close to him, and his words winged home. "Help the Greeks all you want now, Poseidon, and give them their glory, however brief, while Zeus still sleeps, for Hera has bedded him, and I have wrapped him in downy slumber." Saying this, sleep went off to the human world, leaving Poseidon more determined than ever to aid the Greeks. He sprang to the front and cried, "Achaeans, are we going to concede, and they did as he said, so we can take our ships and claim the glory?" Odysseus, that's how he's talking now. Marshaled them, that Achilles, going through their ranks and his wrath on the beach by his best men were using the best gear. We won't miss him too much. When their bodies were covered with burnished all pulled together and help each other, led by Poseidon. Now here's what I want all of us to do: get the biggest and best shields in the army. It's long edge, strap on full metal helmets, outlaw, arm yourselves with the longest spears you can find, and let's move out. You have my word that Hector, no matter how eager he is, won't hold his ground. Now let's go and exchange gear, if you have to, so that our best fighters have the biggest shields." Opposite him, Hector marshaled the Trojans, and the two of them tightened the cords of war. Poseidon tossing his dark blue mane, and Hector standing in a cone of cold light, while the sea surged up to the Greek ships and huts. The two sides, with a pulsating roar, the pounding of surf, when arching breakers roll in from the deep under painful northern winds, or the hissing roar of a forest fire when it climbs the hills to burn all the woods, or the howling of wind when it is angry with oaks, and moans and shrieks through their leafy branches, will give you some idea of the canny noise the Greeks and Trojans made when they clashed. Hector struck first, a spear cast at Ajax, who was in his line of fire. He didn't miss, but the spear hit Ajax where his two belts, one for his shield and one for his silver-studded sword, formed a protective cross over his skin. Angry that he made a good throw for nothing, Hector backstepped into the ranks of his army, avoiding fate, but as he withdrew, big Ajax picked up one of the stones that had rolled underfoot. There were many of these, used as chocks for the ships, and caught Hector on the chest above his shield's rim, and just under the neck, and sent him spinning like a top. He fell as a tree falls on oak tree blasted by lightning from Zeus. The tree is uprooted, and the air reeks of brimstone, and no one who sees this from close up has any desire to be near Zeus's thunderbolts ever again. So Hector fell to the ground in the dust. The spear was knocked from his hand, but his shield and helmet flew up in the air, and then came down, clattering on the rest of his embellished armor. The Greeks ran up screaming with delight, pulling javelins thick and fast, and hoping to drag him off, but they couldn't touch him. All of Troy's best crowded around their hero: Polydamas, Aeneas, Agenor, Glaucus, Sarpedon, the Lycian commander. No one neglected Hector. They circled him with shields until they brought him to near the rear of the battlefield, where his horse stood with his charioteer and rig, which took him groaning back to the city. When the Greeks saw that Hector was gone, they remembered how much they loved to fight. First to draw blood was Oilean Ajax. A quick leap and a thrust of his spear brought down Satamus, son of Enops, and a peerless Naiad who lived in the river, the Cetonius, where he tended his flocks. When Ajax's spear hit him on the flank, he fell on his back and became the center of some hard fighting. Polydamas, Pantheus' son, came up to help him, and put his spear through the right shoulder of Prothenor, Eurylochus' son. The spear's weight carried it clear through, and he fell to earth, clawing at the dust. Polydamas gloated over him loudly. "Ha! Another great throw for the strong hand of the heroic son of Pantheus, and another Greek has my spear in his flesh. Use it as a crutch on your way down to hell." The boast pained the Greeks no more so than Telamonian Ajax, who who was closest to the man when he fell. Ajax's bright spear was in the air instantly, hurtling at Polydamas, who managed to dodge both its point and its death. No matter, the spear lodged in Eurylochus, Antenor's son, whom the gods wanted to die, just where the neck splices into the spine, at the topmost vertebrae. The spear blade sheared through the double tendon. His mouth and nose hit the earth before his legs and knees. It was Ajax's turn to call Polydamas. "What do you think, Polydamas? Was this man worthy to be killed in return for Prothenor? He wasn't simply a nobody, was he? Looks like he might be Antenor's brother, or his son. There's a family resemblance." He knew perfectly well who it was. The Trojans felt their chests tighten. Then Acamas, straddling his brother's body, stitched his spear through Procamus, the Boeotian, who was trying to drag the corpse by its feet. Into the clear, Acamas was exultant. "Try fighting sometime instead of issuing threats. We're not going to be the only side to suffer. We're going to give us as good as we get. How do you like the nap Promachus is taking, courtesy of my spear? I didn't waste any time collecting the price for my brother's blood. That's what family's for, to beat off ruin." The Greeks winced when they heard this, no one more so than the warrior Peneleus. He charged, and when Acamas did not wait for his onslaught, he hit Ilianus instead. The man's father was Phorbos, whom Hermes loved more than any other Trojan, and who had the flocks and wealth to prove it, but only one child, Ilianos. Peneleus' spear went through his eye socket, gouging out the eyeball and going clear through the nape of the neck. Ilianos stretched out his hands as he settled slowly to earth. Peneleus took out his sword and hacked at its neck, severing the head, helmet and all. The great spear was still stuck in the eye socket. Peneleus held it up, like a poppy, showing it to the Trojans, and said, "Kindly take word to Ilianos' parents to lament their prince in his family's halls. As the wife of Promachus, Agenor's son, will lament the absence of her cherished husband when the Greeks returned on their ships from Troy." He spoke, and the Trojans began to tremble, eyes searching for an escape from death. "Those who dwell on Olympus tell me who was the first Greek to bear away spoils once Poseidon had turned the battle's tide. Telamonian Ajax, who wounded Hytreus, son of Gyrius, leader of the Mysidians, and Antilochus despoiled Phalances and Meramis. And Merion slew Morius and Hippotion, and Teucer stripped Prothean and Periphetes, and the son of Atreus wounded Hypenor in the flank when the broads clove through all the bowels spilled out, and his soul rushed through the gaping wounds, and night covered his eyes. But Ajax, Oileus' swift son, killed the most. No one could chase down men in a rout faster than he, when Zeus makes them panic."